Back in April of 2023, it was first announced that Daisy Ridley is going to be coming back to star as Rey in an upcoming Star Wars movie that's set to take place after the events of the sequel trilogy. But when this announcement was made, many Star Wars fans weren't really excited about it because even though the sequel trilogy for Star Wars did actually make money for Disney and Lucasfilm, it left a bad taste in the mouth of many Star Wars fans. But despite all that, it seems like Kathlene Kennedy really wants to make sure that this movie actually gets made, but it's looking like there's been a lot more issues surrounding it because ever since this announcement, it seems like the movie, even though they found a director for it, has a hard time actually keeping a hold of their writers, and it looks like we got another writer deciding to leave the project. This is being reported on by Variety. Star Wars movie with Daisy Ridley loses screenwriter Stephen Knight. There is another disturbance in the Force. Screenwriter Stephen Knight has departed the Star Wars movie set to follow Daisy Ridley's Rey after the events of 2019 Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And some of the other writers that left the project had cited just, creative differences with Kathlene Kennedy because there was drafts of the scripts that were submitted to Kathlene Kennedy and then she would return them with notes and other things like that. And it seems like the direction the writers actually wanted to take it didn't really match up with what Kathlene Kennedy wanted to do, and that's why they decided to leave the project. And I'm just assuming that that's the case when it comes to Stephen Knight deciding to leave this as well. In March 2023, Variety exclusively reported that Knight had signed onto the project, replacing original screenwriters Damon Lindelof and Justin Britt Gibson. Lucasfilm is actively talking with potential writers to take on the story, which has been said to chronicle Rey's efforts to start a new Jedi Academy, but the delay likely means production won't start until well into 2025 at least. Now, obviously, the information by itself doesn't necessarily mean with 100% certainty that this project is definitively going to be getting canceled because, after all, if you actually look at a lot of major releases, it's pretty common for them to have a half dozen writers or so working on it. It's not that there was a half dozen writers working on the movie all at once. It's that they all came in at various stages of the production, and since some of their contributions were in the final product, they get credited as a writer for this. So it's pretty par for the course to have writers leave major projects like this. But when you couple this with the fact that Disney seems to have a bad habit of announcing Star Wars projects and then canceling them, well, then suddenly it starts bringing up whether this movie will actually be made or not. Because when you really think about it, Disney has actually announced more Star Wars projects than they've produced. And in fact, they've actually canceled more Star Wars projects outright than they've actually produced. That's not even to count the projects that still don't have any updates on what they're going to do with it, but they haven't officially canceled it yet. But I think despite all that, they're still going to try to move forward with this project, not necessarily willing to cancel it outright or just put it on the back burner and forget about it for now, because this is something that Kathlene Kennedy personally wants to see get made. And they still have their director signed on to make this movie too. Charmin Obaid-Chinoy is still attached to direct the film, which would be her feature debut. She previously directed episodes of Disney Plus series Miss Marvel after twice winning the Oscar for Best Documentary Short Film. And it might seem strange to have a director with a background in short documentaries directing a Star Wars project, but the reason why she said she's interested in doing this is because of the following. The Star Wars story that interests me most is in Rey's journey as a female Jedi. That's how I can best bring my experience to it. And I really don't get what she's going for when it comes to this, because at this point in the Star Wars canon, females have been Jedi for thousands of years. They've been admirals and generals. They've ruled over entire planets. So it's not like women are marginalized at this point in the Star Wars canon. So it really makes no sense why she'd be focusing the story in this manner, unless it's because she's an activist who has an agenda with this movie. And that's really why Kathlene Kennedy decided to hire her for the project, because she herself is also an activist. And that's why I'm thinking a lot of the writers are actually trying to bow out right now, because maybe they don't necessarily see eye to eye on their political agenda, or maybe they do, but they just don't like the manner in which Kathlene Kennedy is trying to steer things. So that's why they decided to step out of this. Meanwhile, Kathlene Kennedy is hell bent on actually getting this movie made, because it's supposed to be her legacy at Lucasfilm, or at least the sequel trilogy was supposed to be her legacy at Lucasfilm. And all it's really done so far is just kind of leave a bad taste in the mouth of the audiences that have seen them. So she decided to do this instead. And this is basically, if there's a rejection of the Rey movie, then that's basically a rejection of everything Kathlene Kennedy has done. Meanwhile, you got other stuff that was created by Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. And I don't necessarily like all of them, but still those things that they've made have been more well received than any of the things that Kathlene Kennedy is more directly responsible. And I know some people are going to say, well, Kathlene Kennedy's president of Lucasfilm, she's responsible for it all. It's like, Well, yes, that's true, but some things she had more of a say so than others. Other projects like The Mandalorian, for instance, the first season, definitely she took a hands off approach to that, and it is because she didn't care about it. The only reason she actually been involved with it in recent years is because it was popular. So it's like, well, I better pay attention to this now because I thought it was just going to be a throwaway series, but since it's popular, I better get more involved with it. And that kind of corresponds to the downward trend of the quality of that show. The next movie that's set to come out is The Mandalorian and Grogu, and I don't have a whole lot of hopes for that one. The next one that's supposed to come out now is James Mangold's movie, which is set to be start production next year, which is kind of interesting and also lends more credibility to the Rey movie getting pushed back because the Rey movie was supposed to come out before James Mangold's movie comes out, but it looks like his movie is actually going to be released first. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that Rey's movie is going to be getting canceled with 100% certainty. But as time goes on, it just keeps getting pushed back further and further. And I think the only reason it's getting made right now is because Kathleen Kennedy wants to see it get made and she's not going to budge on this one. So, and as long as she's there, this project is definitely going to go underway. But I think if Kathleen Kennedy was gone at Lucasfilm, then they'd probably axe the Rey project altogether because there's really not a demand for it whatsoever, and they can't even find people to produce that movie. So I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess, what happens with this one. But at least, even if it does get made, I'm not really holding out much hope that it'll be any good, at least not with the creators responsible for it right now. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.